We're here today to address a question that all Canadians have been asking. Who are the parliamentarians who have been identified in a confidential report by the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians?
We bring you breaking news related to the 11 parliamentarians alleged to have been wittingly or unwittingly collaborating with foreign states against the interests of Canadians. As of yesterday, Justin Trudeau's government has been unwilling to disclose any of the names, and today we learned that at least 3 of those names on that list are Liberal, all active parliamentarians.
Let's take a look.
Canada's democracy has been under attack by authoritarian regimes. Chief among them is the People's Republic of China. And I'm joined today by leading experts on foreign interference. Sam Cooper, investigative journalist and author of Willful Blindness, 3rd edition. Dr. Charles Burton, senior fellow at Synopsis. And Michelle Junot-Katsuya, former Asia Pacific desk chief at CSIS, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service. We're here today to address a question that all Canadians have been asking. Who are the parliamentarians who have been identified in a confidential report by the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians? In their special report, paragraph 164 states that NSICOP has, quote, seen troubling intelligence that some parliamentarians are, in the words of the intelligence services, semi-witting or witting participants in the efforts of foreign states to interfere in our politics, end quote. How can Canada have an election if Canadians don't know whether the people they're voting for has their best interests at heart or if they're serving a foreign master? Nearly every opposition party leader has called for the names of the parliamentarians identified in the NSICOP report, but the Trudeau government refuses to do so. This plays directly into the hands of authoritarians. Until those names are identified, a cloud of suspicion hangs over all parliamentarians, but especially those of Chinese heritage.
So for those of you who don't know, this is independent MP Kevin Vuong. And you don't hear from him too much because he's an independent, but some of you may or may not know that he wasn't supposed to be an independent.
No, he was supposed to be a Liberal. The story, as I understand it, was that he was on the ballot and was the candidate choice to represent the Liberal Party in his riding. And like within a day or two of the election, he was removed from caucus. So it was too late to get his name off the ballot, allegedly, and he ended up getting elected anyways, but is now an independent as opposed to being part of the Liberal Party.
Now, the reason for that is there was some allegations of, let's just say, some questionable behavior regarding, some ladies, and that was the alleged reason why he was removed. Now, he's been dealing with those allegations and fighting against them. But similar to, I think, some of the other politicians, I think a lot of people just took the allegations as gospel. And he's also been actively courting the Conservatives to try to cross from an independent into the Conservative Party as well. Kevin has been very outspoken against the Prime Minister and many of the policies, and he just seems to be very much anti-Trudeau at this point. Now, up until today, we haven't really given one thought or the other as to the original allegations against Kevin Vuong because, there's no proof of it one way or the other, and it wasn't a core issue. But that has changed, and as you will hear today, there's a good reason why Kevin Vuong may be a central figure as we discuss foreign interference. So let's keep going.
It's time for the government to come clean to Canadians and defend our democracy. Sam.
Thank you, MP Vuong. I'm here today to highlight some of the names and entities covered in my updated book and to pose a question. Should other Canadian journalists be examining the openly available evidence surrounding these networks? Firstly, my book recounts reporting on a 2020 tape recording provided to me, where Senator Yuen Pao-Wu is heard in a 47-minute private briefing with the Canada Committee 100 Society. This group included Conservative Senator Victor O as an advisory member, along with an individual officially listed in a Chinese United Front Overseas Leaders Group. The Canada Committee 100 Society is led in Vancouver by Ding Guo, a journalist who is also an advisor to British Columbia Premier David Eby. Other journalists participating in this tape-recorded meeting with Senator Wu later supported Liberal candidate Parm Bains in 2021. Bains had told these journalists he opposed Kenny Chu's Foreign Agent Registry Bill, describing it as an exclusionary policy. Ding Guo was also reportedly involved in the 2022 Conservative Party leadership race, alongside community leaders officially connected to Beijing's overseas influence arm, the United Front. I can provide more details later on how this should illuminate NSI COP 2024.
Okay, so for those of you that had trouble keeping track of who was who in there, so what they're talking about is potentially 4 people there. So you have Conservative Senator or former Conservative Senator, he's since retired, Victor O. You have current Liberal Senator Yuen Pao-Wu. You have current Liberal Member of Parliament Mary Ng, and potentially current Member of Parliament Parm Bains. Now, this isn't even taking into account Han Dong in all of this. So, according to Jagmeet, he's number 5. So this is 5 of the 11. So that means you have 4 of the 5 named, 80% so far, are Liberal. And you wonder why Justin Trudeau isn't really looking forward to releasing any of these names. You wonder why.
And I just want to make the distinction that Senator Wu is not a Liberal senator. He actually belongs to the Independent Senators group, but he was a Liberal appointed senator, appointed in 2016 under Justin Trudeau.
And according to some of the Conservatives in the Senate, these other independent groups of senators are effectively still Liberal because most, if not all of them, did some work in some way for the Liberal Party prior to becoming senators in the Senate, and they were recommended by a Liberal committee to Justin Trudeau to actually appoint them as senators.
Right. So even though they're sitting as independents in the Senate because of the changes Justin Trudeau had made to the Senate, they are in effect Liberal appointed senators.
So that's the full clarity that we have now. And as we mentioned, Victor O, still a Conservative, is retired. Doesn't absolve him from any potential, I would say, repercussions and investigation that should continue into what his activities were. And Sam Cooper already outlined that a bunch of these people were a part of this Committee 100 that had ties all the way back to the People's Republic of China. So, yeah, definitely some investigations need to continue into that.
In the taped meeting, attendees asked Senator Wu about his stance regarding United Front Work Department community group activities in Canada. These groups, according to CSIS, are central to targeting Canadian politicians for influence and election interference. Senator Wu expressed his concerns about Canada's focus on United Front groups, stating, "Whether you belong to an organization that happens to be listed as a United Front organization should not be a litmus test," and added, "I am fighting very hard against that type of litmus test." Mr. Burton, the sinologist and Mandarin language expert, reviewed the full tape recording and told me, quote, "Senator Wu's briefing to Canada Committee 100 Society effectively enables the legitimacy of agencies of the Chinese Communist Party in our country. this does call into question Senator Wu's intervener status in the inquiry. Senator Wu didn't comment to me about his remarks, but said I should question the Hogue Commission, who also didn't comment. Ding Guo has said there is nothing inappropriate with Canada Committee 100 Society activities. Therefore, in Willful Blindness 3rd edition update, I write, in a way, Senator Wu's intervention in the Hogue Commission seemed to fulfill his taped pledge to the United Front. He repeatedly filed submissions undermining Canadian intelligence and using Chinese intelligence talking points. My confidence that he appeared to act for Beijing was bolstered by information from a person I call Confidential Source 1, who confirmed that Senator Wu, appointed by Justin Trudeau, was under CSIS investigation.
I think we're starting to get a sense as to why the whistleblowers decided to release this intelligence directly to the media.
Well, because the Prime Minister isn't doing anything about this. I mean, foreign interference and the sanctity of our elections and our borders, all that, the buck stops with Justin Trudeau. And he's not taking this seriously. So the folks who are supposed to be giving him this intelligence, and they are, he's just the one not listening. Instead of going to him directly, now they're going to the public.
And just think about this, folks. Think about the fact that everything that we're hearing, Trudeau and Trudeau's government already knows.
Right. That's why I was saying last night on our live stream that it's not Pierre Poilievre not getting this clearance to look at this report. That's the problem. It's Justin Trudeau, because he has this information and he's been sitting on this information for years and nothing has happened. I mean, look, he tried to hire his ski buddy so that he could, not have a foreign interference, but Canadians pushed back and we got our foreign inquiry. And this is what we're learning.
Yeah, the public inquiry that we have now is just as a result of the entire House, credit to the NDP, as well as the Bloc, pushing against this and basically saying, no, we're not going to allow this to happen unless there's a public inquiry. So, and to Tanya's point, Trudeau is trying to make it seem like the people that don't have this information are the problem, when it is in actual fact the people that do have this information that is the problem.
Right.
I also question what report was actually given to Elizabeth May versus being given to Jagmeet Singh, because Elizabeth May says, well, I'm not concerned.
Does she not end up changing her opinion though?
Well, she says she's somewhat concerned, but like, if this information was in there, how can you not be concerned?
And no offense to Sam, but what kind of country are we living in where instead of the Prime Minister giving this information to Canadians, it's coming from a journalist?
A retired journalist.
Right. Like, God bless him for the work that he's done and the fact that he is bringing it to light. But it should be the responsibility of the Prime Minister.
Confidential Source 2 also repeatedly stressed that Conservative Senator Victor O, an advisor to the Canada Committee 100 Society, was a significant target in CSIS's investigation into federal election interference. In Willful Blindness, I write about investigations that began in early 2019. I write, according to 3 national security sources, Liberal Cabinet Minister Mary Ng was identified in CSIS investigations as one of 11 Toronto area candidates clandestinely supported by Chinese consulate and United Front influence networks in the 2019 election. CSIS assessed that Mary Ng was unwittingly implicated in this interference network. Despite my requests, Mary Ng and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's office never responded for comment. As I write in Willful Blindness, Mary Ng was one of the key Ontario Liberal government staffers who moved to Ottawa with Trudeau, alongside more high-profile advisors like Katie Telford and Gerald Butts. 2 national security sources indicated that a specific CSIS concern was Ng's staff allegedly meeting privately with a Toronto consulate diplomat to consult on China-related issues. CSIS identified this diplomat, Zhou Wei, as a confirmed intelligence actor. According to one source, quote, "We believe Zhou Wei worked with political staffers to provide information on meetings of elected officials and their whereabouts. We know staff have direction to report privately to the consulate on Mary Ng."
So, what does this mean about Mary Ng? Well, what this means is that she was not wittingly collaborating with China. So let's just make sure that that's clear.
That we know of,
Right.
right?
So the information that we're getting from this press conference is that she didn't even know that this was happening. But because of her pro-China views, the Chinese government in their network essentially supported her without her needing to even know. Now, the other thing that they were saying is that Mary Ng's staff was actually working with the Chinese consulate and discussing this. And who were they working with? Oh, right. That same guy that Justin Trudeau said in the public inquiry that they didn't really have any concerns about for about 3 years, Zhao Wei. The guy that was actively having conversations with Han Dong, the guy that was actively working to threaten Michael Chung's family back in China because of the way he voted about China's treatment of the Uyghurs. So you have all of this stuff going on, and apparently CSIS knows all about Zhao Wei and all of these other things that the guy was doing, keeping track of MP movements, threatening MPs, all of this stuff. And Justin Trudeau is sitting back saying, well, it's not a problem.
Well, and they did not make Zhao Wei persona non grata until like their backs were against the wall, essentially. They waited until the absolute last minute to declare him PNG. And we discussed this in one of our previous videos where it's either that the Liberals had no reason to make this person PNG, but just did so to cave to public pressure, or they waited way too long and then made this person PNG when they had no other choice, when they couldn't get away with not making him PNG any longer.
Well, and when Justin Trudeau was questioned on this in the inquiry, and we have that as a recent video, they were saying, well, you did nothing. And he said, no, we didn't do nothing. Not doing something is decisive action. And that's even worse. So that basically means you're abetting these people. Mm-hmm. You know that this is happening and you're allowing it to continue.
Something doesn't smell right here.
This is a critical detail hinted at in the Hague Commission's initial report, which, for some reason, did not disclose the involvement of Mary Ng's staff with Zhou Wei or clarify what this implies about Ng's position in Trudeau's cabinet.
Last year, I wrote about Kevin's ill-fated campaign to run for the Liberals and his allegations that China had a hand in his ouster as a Liberal candidate. Questions for Sam. Do you believe Kevin was that candidate?
I also covered Kevin Vuong's allegations of what he believed occurred. I did a lengthy videotaped interview with MP Vuong on his allegations, and I looked into his case for months. I also read your report and others, and I had no idea that this new top-tier case would be tabled at the Hague Commission. When I saw the allegations that a foreign government had allegedly targeted a candidate because of their stances on that government, that type of case appeared consistent with Kevin's allegations. I can share the detail that in my own investigations, I heard from several Liberal Party of Canada sources that alleged after it became clear that Kevin Vuong would be the nominee in his Toronto riding, a senior Liberal Party member allegedly started to communicate within the party, making efforts to wind back that nomination. So this is an interesting flag for me on the plausibility that MP Vuong's case could be that serious case alleged in the Hague Commission. Other details that were interesting were that a a news story was published alleging sexual misconduct, as you wrote, Brian, about MP Vuong. He had already, he was already in place to run. So it was up to the Liberal Party and the Prime Minister to withdraw his candidacy, and that occurred. What I gathered from the Prime Minister's testimony is he said he was not aware from intelligence of the allegations. Of course, he didn't refer to what member of his party could have been targeted. But I can say that consistent with the PRC being the by far the biggest targeter of Canadian candidates, whether they be friends of China, neutral and convincible, or foes of China, it's consistent with allegations in New York in an FBI counterintelligence probe that when China's Ministry of State Security wanted to block the congressional candidacy of a U.S. former, an Army veteran who had come from China being a Tiananmen Square activist. The FBI says, and indictments say, China didn't want him to run, so local networks, proxies were employed by the Ministry of State Security with plots uncovered in intercepted communications, including that campaign workers be implanted in that individual's campaign to perhaps gather compromising activity. There were a part of the plot was potentially harming the candidate in ways that would preclude them from running, so physical violence. In Canada, I'm aware in my coverage of cases and networks that came up in the Hogue Commission from looking into my reports, I noticed a pattern that an individual that my sources indicated China wanted out of the way, or Chinese proxies wanted out of the way, was the subject of news stories alleging sexual impropriety.
And there it is.
So this is exactly what happened with Kevin Vuong. And it's interesting that the Hogue Commission does note a specific situation where an unnamed candidate essentially won the nomination for their riding, and then shortly after that, a senior party official, could that be Michael Chan?
Who knows?
Started making waves in the Liberal Party saying, no, this can't be the guy. And then was subsequently removed. Sounds very, very similar to Kevin Vuong's situation. Now, we don't know that it is for a fact, but
the similarities are very eerie.
They're striking.
Yeah.
Considering that this is the strategy that China has taken up here. Oh, you want to get somebody out of the way? Start some rumors, throw it in the news that, they started to do some things that were sexually inappropriate. So this is the core of what this press conference was about. And this is concerning. Very, very concerning. Not just that there's active parliamentarians that are either working against, or they have staff that are working against Canadian interests. Over and above that, that's concerning enough. What's most concerning about this is that Trudeau and his government know.
They've known for years.
And they've done nothing. Literally nothing to stop this.
I think they've done less than nothing in the sense that it sounds like they've even tried to cover this up so that Canadians wouldn't know about this.
Right, because they didn't want a public inquiry at all.
Right.